We are now live, ladies and gentlemen, children of all ages. I haven't done a live video in a long time, and I haven't worn my blue Hefner in a long time either. And I got my cool jewels that I got from the beach. I got a bunch of them. I'm just wearing a couple of them right now. Every time I get tips going down the beach singing, I buy some jewelry from some of the people selling their jewelry on the beach. So I have some jewelry here. I have a sticker of a lot of the jewelry people. I have stickers of their businesses on my guitars. When I sing on the beach, they say these are my energetic contributors to the show of amazingness called Live from Normal Heights, which is me and everyone else dancing along with us. Okay, so what are we going to read tonight? Remember, I used to do readings all the time. I haven't done readings in a long time, but I just thought, for some reason, oh yeah, there was a photographer that took my picture, really cool pictures, and he took a picture of himself, made it all look weird. And in the picture, he looked like Rasputin. So I said, oh, Rasputin's come back to life. So, which made me just decide, I'm going to go read a little bit more about Rasputin, even though I've heard lots about him through Access Consciousness founder who used to channel him. So I just downloaded this PDF. I'm going to put it on my Kindle so I can read it on my Kindle. But this PDF, I don't know how many pages it is. I might read some of it each few days or once a week. I don't know. We'll see what comes up. Depends on people enjoy the reading or not and my commentary on it. But Joseph T. Furman is the writer of this Rasputin, the Untold Story. And when was this published? First published in 1213. Okay, cool. Sorry, 1213. 2013. Just recently. Because Rasputin was killed in the early turn of the century, 1900s. So the founder of Access Consciousness said he was one of the many people he channeled. Just thought it was amusing that this guy would come to him and he just liked his jokes and his weirdness. And he told him all of the crazy stories he used to do when he was, from what I've heard from the channeler, he used to get sexual favors under the table while he was at fine restaurants in the center of Russia, whatever it was back then. Can't remember the names, but anyway, we'll find out here. So this is the preface I'm reading right now. Rasputin's legend has captivated and enthralled people for a century. Restaurants in Siberia, Vancouver, London, and Bangkok bear his name. Beers and vodkas display his face on their labels. There have been musicals and operas, cartoons and comic books, as well as documentaries and more than a dozen films about his life. A mountain of books has chronicled Rasputin's rise and fall with various degrees of sensationalism and accuracy. Only a few are in England, and even fewer have advanced our understanding of his life. Oh, only a few are in English, not in England. My eyes go bad at night. I should blow up. I'm looking for a drink. Oh, I ran out of my drink. I'm going to have to stop and get a drink in a little while. When I start reading, I forget I'm going to get dehydrated. Let me make this a little bigger. Oh, that's better. That's, I can see it a lot better. Okay, so it is in English. Only a few of them have been in English. Now I got to find my place because I just pushed the cursor and it jumped. Because I made it bigger than I had it before. Okay. Did I jump all the way to another page? Damn. Super fast jumping action. Sorry, kids. Okay. So it says only a few are in English. So there's been a lot of books written about him, but only a few in English as of the time of this 2013 publication. So maybe there's been more since then. Who knows? The first was by Sergei Trofko, an ex-monk who published The Mad Monk of Russia. Izdor, Life, Memoirs, and Confessions of Sergei Mikhailov Trofko. I can't say these names. Anyway, so one of the monks that was probably close to him. This was published in 1218 because I guess he died in 1217 or 16. I can't remember. Oh, we'll find out. Although Fyodor, this is the guy's shortened name, that long name I just read, began as a friend of Rasputin and ended as his bitter enemy, He conceded that the peasants' religious quest was sincere, at least in the early years. The book remains pivotal as a first-hand account of Rasputin's rise to power, although Iador, that writer, his monk that was close to him or studied with him, also invented facts and conversations. Quote, I put a little extra, he later admitted, especially at the end. So he made the story more dramatic by adding little things in it, which people do writing about people's lives. Even subconsciously, we do that. Like when we're rewriting the past and we forget how it happened because it didn't really happen because there is no past, there's only the now. And so we can recreate the future and we can recreate the past. That's a whole long story. We won't get into it. I think I talked about it many other videos. We didn't expect to go on to that subject. Okay. Two important books appeared in 1928 and 1935. In 1928, the popular writer René Furop Miller, Rasputin's The Holy Devil, provided the first serious English language biography. Fulop Miller drew on memoirs and published primary materials. His work has merit, but the many fictionalized episodes and invented conversations make the book problematic. Yet, it was the standard reference on Rasputin's life for most of the 20th century. Alexander Spirodorovich, who headed the security forces guarding the Romanovs, wrote Rasputin 1863 to 1916, so he died in 1916, and a French title, which I can't read. Documents I can't read Russian. I mean French. I think Russian's easier to read than French for someone who's not studied French in this lifetime. I did in previous lifetimes, but I kind of forget how it works. It was probably written different back then anyway, as English was back then until I rewrote it. Okay, Rasputin, 1863 to 1916, based on Russian documents and the author's private archives in 1935, so another French version. Although the book contains inaccuracies, Spiridovich was a keen and honest observer who benefited from access to police reports and official records. Okay, so they try to be as honest as they possibly could, but each new writer claims theirs is better than the last one, which is how all people do. But my book, I wrote the real absolute truth because I know the truth, because I have deep, controversial documentaries. Anyway, I'm just reading the mind of the writer, and I am fictitiously bastardizing what he would have said just for climactic, what do you call it? For comedic impact. Okay. Rasputin's older daughter, Maria, was in a position to speak with authority on her father and his life. She published The Real Rasputin in 1929, and then the second book, My Father, in 1934, and Rasputin, The Man Behind the Myth, in 1977. So she wrote 3 books to try to clear up the record of all the bad shit people were writing about him, probably. Being that she's the daughter, she has a more favorable opinion than all the fucking kooks that try to put him down. Not that he doesn't deserve to be put down. I'm just saying what her point of view is. If I was the daughter of a father that brought me to life and did a bunch of cool shit for me, I would try to save his ass too. Especially if he did a lot of bad shit she knew about, or maybe she didn't know about. Because my daughter wouldn't know if I did bad shit, unless I told her on my deathbed. Okay. The first 2 books contain valuable information and insight, and they probably reflect much of what Rasputin thought about himself. The 3rd volume is sensationalized and far less reliable, advancing theories and incidents Maria never previously mentioned. So I would like to read the last book. Usually the controversial ones are the best ones. Historians don't want to admit that there's reality beyond the myths of our creation of this matrix field that seems real. It's just a pantomime. This is all fake. You see it and it feels real and it sounds real, but it's just a fucking holographic matrix because I'm not real. I'm Max Headroom. Anyway, numerous other works appeared throughout the 20th century, notably Elizabeth Judas Rasputin, neither devil nor saint, in 1942. Just want to check if I'm still going live. Yeah, I'm still going live. Good. Because I'm reading on another screen where I can't see my face. I guess I can kind of minimize this and maximize that and kind of do double screen and see myself talking to know I haven't dropped off the internet, but I'm not into that anymore. I used to be into that shit, watching myself talk and mirror image as if the real image isn't cool enough. Okay. Numerous other works appeared throughout the 20th century, notably Elizabeth Judas's Rasputin, Neither Devil nor Saint. I just read that in 1942. So this Elizabeth girl wrote another book. That sounds good. I might read that one too, because it's given the pros and cons, not just all the bad shit, which is based on the author's own interaction with the peasant. So she knew this cat. Okay, before he became famous and went away. It's like I knew Tito before he became Tito. Well, he was always Tito, but once he married porn stars and divorced porn stars and didn't really marry them because they had prenuptial agreements and all that shit, it's harder to get him on my show because now he's up there in the echelons of high society and running for mayors of cities and shit and winning. Anyway, she knew him wacky when he was a peasant, and after that, she probably just had to see him from afar in the newspapers. Okay, attempts to refute Rasputin's satanic image. So she says he's not. He was just a peasant, that's a farmer, isn't it? Person lives off the fields, lives off the land, has to give fealty to the governor of the land, pay them in rice crops or in whatever they're growing, peanuts or I don't know. I wonder what kind of farmer he was. I wonder if he was a peanut farmer like Jimmy Carter's family was, or was he a hemp farmer? Did he grow marijuana? Because he was kind of a little mysterious. Maybe that was because he smoked a lot of pot. Or maybe he grew mushrooms with a bunch of cows shitting in a field. I should ask. I get more towards the latter. He was more of a mushroom kind of guy. That's why he did mystical healings. Because he saw through the matrix of what was really going on. Anyway, good or bad, he used it for good and bad, I'm sure, like all of us do. I choose more towards good than he did, but who am I to throw rocks in a glass house? Okay. Let's see. Wow, Robert K. Macy's Nicholas and Alexandra in 1967, the book, offered a magnificent story of the last Tsar, although its account of Rasputin was based largely on the Miller book, the Fulop Miller book. Damn, I want to drink this in this. Only a few drops left. Okay, a full English language biography of Rasputin finally appeared in 1982 when Alex de Jonge, I don't know how to say Jonge, published The Life and Times of Grigory Rasputin, which is Gregory, probably in Russian. Like Timoshe is Timothy, Timoteo. I think that's Gregory, Grigory. Okay, is Gregory from the Bible too, like Timothy is, which is Timoche and Timoteo and Temote in Japan, which is a shampoo, which every time I say my name's Temote, which is the Japanese translation of Timothy in the Bible, they go, oh, do you do shampoo? And I'm like, no, that's a Bible name. But they don't know that because no one knows the Bible except the Christians. And then the Mormons all go, oh, you are in the Bible. I had a lot of Mormon friends. They were cool. In Japan, anyway. I don't know about the Mormons in the U.S. They're kind of a little kooky. I dated a girl. I read their little book of the Mormons and all that just to try to get in bed with her, but she wouldn't give in because she was a Mormon. You have to first get married and you have to do all this other shit. You have to be a Mormon husband to get married, so I wasn't ever going to go there. Okay, so we did the dry fucking. What you do as a banker in these days with the tellers. De Jonge clearly had a good feel for Rasputin. Unfortunately, he was hampered by Soviet policy that tried to control what the world would know about Nicholas II and his circle. So he published the book of the Nicholases and Alexander and Nicholas, but he couldn't really publish all the shit because the censors, you have to send it to the KGB censors or whatever the censors are in the government before you can publish, and they cut out all the blacked out all the shit. Nope, that's top secret. Nope, that's wrong. You got to change this paragraph to this, change this to that, or you're not going to get it published. Or you're going to get your guillotined head off. Okay. This control denied foreign scholars access to archives that would provide vital information and answer even such simple questions as, when was Rasputin born? Did he die rich or poor? A host of errors in the text and footnotes, and even the biography is disappointing. Okay, Brian Moynihan. I wonder if Brian Moynihan is the Moynihans related to the other Moynihans. Wasn't there Congressman Moynihan and someone who was in the news media Moynihan? Or maybe that is Brian Moynihan. I don't know. Fuck, who do I know? I don't watch popular dynamics, popular fucking trivia of rich billionaires that get talking head positions in the corporate media. Anyway, he wrote Rasputin's The Saint Who Sinned. That's a cool title. I should read that one. That was 1997. Focuses on salacious gossip surrounding the peasant and his career. They keep calling him a peasant. Why don't they just call him a farmer? That's what a peasant is. A poor landless person, serf. I'm going to call him a serf. Okay, so I guess that's after serfdom amended, unofficially or officially. As a serious biography, it failed the test of serious scholarship. Russia held all of the documents needed to tell Rasputin's story, but for years, they remained closed to foreigners. The Soviet government did publish archival documents chronicling the last years of the Romanov dynasty, the most important being Padani Tsokororezk. Oh, that's Russian. I can't read Russian. This is as bad as French. Okay. The English translation is Fall of the Tsarist Regime, which appeared in 7 volumes between, wow, man, can you read the chronicled documents from the government, declassified from 1924 to 1927. Oh, that's when they were published. Okay. But it chronicles the whole time of the Tsar, man. Really interesting case study. And was edited by P.E. Schwagogolov, whatever that name is. Padany, that's the person. Oh, that's the name of the book. Contains interrogations, depositions, and other materials gathered by the Extraordinary Investigatory Commission of the Provisional Government of the spring of 1912. Wow. 1917. That was a year after he was killed, and I guess the Tsar fell apart because he was like one of the main actors in keeping the shit going, because he was the voodoo child who slept with all the high people, according to the channeler. What do you believe more, the people channel people or people that actually read declassified documents which are redacted drastically? I don't know which one you can believe more. I like to just take a little piece of this, a little piece of that, and like muscle test which is true or less true, or what on a scale of 1 to 1,000 being absolute truth, how far up it is. If you want me to know, I can tell you the scores on all these books, which was the most true, which was the least true. I would say I'm getting this final one here from 2013. I keep saying 19 and 13, or I don't know why I can't say that year, 2013. That was a year after my daughter was born. This seems to be the most true when I muscle test right now, because I just did it in my head. It's like up there in the 700 or 800s, which is pretty high for a book. In absolute truth being 1,000. So it contains some inaccuracies, but not as many as the previous books. Okay, the commission was interested in the public activity and private lives of key figures in the old regime, but documents favorable to Nicholas II, Alexandra, and Rasputin were not included in this. So they took a lot of that redacted shit out. They were lost in the Library of Alexandria when it burned, and they were actually put on the 5th or 6th sub-basement of the Vatican Library. I'm getting more sixth, but anyway, that's a whole long story. You got to do quantum jumping, or you got to do astral projection to get there, and we'll read them all. That material was consigned to an enormous secret quote file that was stolen from the archives when the Soviet Union collapsed. That's cool. Someone got in and fucking stole all the redacted documents of Nicholas II, Alexander, and Rasputin, so they can publish what really happened, or what they were able to steal out of the archives. That's cool. That's like the fucking books that were kept by the Vatican Library for about 50 years, and they published a couple books every 2 or 3 years that just kind of brushed the surface of what were in the files, which were the documents known as the Dead Sea Scrolls, which were actually on papaya, on different leather, copper, different types of scrolls that most survived over time because they were buried up in caves when the Romans attacked and tried to take the history of the Essenes and whitewash it out like they did to the histories that were in the Vatican Library now, are now in the Vatican Library, that were in the libraries that burned down, that they stole out before they burned them down, so they can act like, oh, they burned in the library, so no one knows that history except we know it because it's in the bottom third to sixth floors of the Vatican sub-basement library, which only you have to be high up in the Vatican to get access to the lower basement floors of the Vatican Library, which if you can learn to quantum jump or astral project or lucid dream, or what's another technique we can use? Coordinated remote viewing. Yeah, coordinated remote viewing takes a whole group of people, so it's a little less effective than quantum jumping or astral projecting. I prefer astral projecting, but it's only so often that I get the really lucid dream that I can astral project really well, and jump through windows and drive through oceans and fly across continents and land precisionally on the Vatican Library's archive floors and get past the censors who can see light beings jumping body to body. I'm not actually going body to body. I'm going to my light body so they can see the light body because they have the special goggles. Infrared super sensors, like dogs see us coming at night when we're spooking. Okay, this material was consigned to an enormous pile that was stolen from the archives when the Soviet Union collapsed. I would have loved to be like one of the KGB officers, the CIA agent guys who fucking stole the fucking files when the Soviet Union collapsed. They probably sold on the black market for a lot of money, so people got some fucking big bucks, dude. The cellist, Mitrofor, purchased these documents in 1995 and gave them to his friend Edvard Radzinsky, an outstanding figure. I'm sorry to all the Russians and all the French and all the people that I'm bastardizing their language. I haven't studied French and Russian since the 1600s, and it's been a long time since I studied those, so you kind of lose the cellular memory of how the language works after you choose a few different bodies. An outstanding figure on the Russian cultural scene. Okay, so this cellist gave them to his friend, who was an outstanding Russian cultural critic, so he can do with him what he should do with them after he bought them, because he had the money, because he was friends with the black market salesperson who sold them cheaper than it should have been sold. Okay, Radzinsky used these documents to write, right? All these interjections are not in this manuscript. This is which when you look at a manuscript, you can download all the matrix field understanding of what went into the creation of these, which are not known by the author, the subplots and all that stuff, because it's just all part of the matrix field. It's just like a download. You just close your eyes and put your finger on one of the sentences. This is what they do in coordinated remote viewing. Just name this paragraph, name this text, name this book, 8-digit number, sometimes 7 digits, 6 digits. It depends on who's the teacher. So just to teach you a little bit about how the Pentagon used to work back in the days, this is what they would do to coordinate remote viewers. The person would think of a time and a place. Could be in the future, could be in the past, could be imaginary. They didn't do imaginary because that would fuck with the students. And they assigned it a number, usually six. I like 6 digits: 7, 8, 4, 2. So just say I'm thinking of something. So if any of you guys are good at coordinated remote viewing, you can think of what I'm thinking, and you can do this number, write it down, and you can do remote viewing on this, which I'm not telling you what it is because that's part of the secret. They cut this piece out and they drop it in an envelope, and they copy it and they put it in an envelope, and they don't tell anyone what they were when they were looking at that number. They were creating as the template of where they're going in the past or the future or the present. So if they want to know what's going on in the sub basement of the Vatican Library, they just think of that when the Dead Sea Scrolls were first buried under the other files that they buried, which later got found in microfiche copies on the microfiche floor, which I think is part of the basement of the Pasadena Library. And that's when they figured out they can bypass all the censors of the Vatican and publish what actually the Dead Sea Scrolls, which was the followers of Jesus when he didn't get killed, when he ran off in hiding, one of the many places he taught. Okay, so I picked the place and I picked the number, and all you have to do now is write this number down. You go into a meditation. They do a meditation to clear their mind, and they get into the space, and they all write it down together. They write the number. They open the envelope. They don't tell anyone to write in it. They just write it 827 842, and then they stop at the 2, and they just let their hand and the motion just kind of slowly trail off while they're in a meditation off the page. And on that line that they made from the last part of the 2 contains all the information of where they're going. And then they just put their pen on that line, and they can pick up all the different parts of it, and all the different students in the class can pick up a different part, and they can picture exactly where they're going, and they'll tell you what it looks like and what it sounds like and what it tastes like and what it smells like, and all the information contained therein. And finally the teacher will go, well, now I'll tell you where we were going. We were going to where the Vatican Library kept the Dead Sea Scrolls. And they all go, wow, that's what we felt. They smelled the mustiness. They realized there was many documents. They realized it was in black and white. They realized some of it was tattered and torn, and some of it was discolored, so it wasn't always black and white. But they got a lot of information that I can't tell you, because then you would not know that you can do it yourself if you read the book by the people that used to work for the Pentagon that don't work for the Pentagon anymore. And I forget which one I read, but if you ask me on the video, I'll tell you if that's the one, because I'll remember his name. It's in one of my Kindles. I should have got the actual book, because then I could go through the exercises a lot easier, because you can go back and forth and you can put little page flips and stuff. With the Kindle version, it's a lot harder to do, but that's why I had to do quantum jumping to actually learn it properly. Okay, let's see. Where were we? Okay, so this cellist gave it to his friend, who wrote a book in 2000, which is in Russian. I can't read. Rasputin, I can't read it. Which appeared in English as the Rasputin File. Radzinski's discussion of Rasputin's life is fascinating, and he shows keen insight into the man's sexuality and religious views. Impressive as the book may be, it is not a systematic biography, and its numerous fictional passages undermine its reliability. So this is what this author's trying to sell you, the idea that his book is now the holy truth, dude. And as far as he's talking and I'm testing, it's up there. But the book that'll be written like 2085 by a great-great-grandson of me. Oh, dude, that's weird. Will be more thoroughly documented in this book. But anyway, that's because we stand on the shoulder of giants and we can see further than they can see. That's why we have to have a mentor. Okay, Radzinski is not the only Russian to explore Rasputin's life recently. In the last decade, more than a dozen books have appeared in Russia by Alexander Bohovanov and A.P. Katsubinsky and Oleg Platonov and Oleg Shishkin and God, these names are freaking really hard to say. I'm sorry, Russians. I'm plastering their names. Tretsky, Butsky, Petsky, Tretsky is not one of them. Okay. Vyacheslav Smirnov. Oh, his name's the same as the Smirnov vodka. He's part of the Smirnov family. There's probably 1,000 people. That's like probably Smith. Anyway, this and Marina Smirnova. So you have Smirnov and Smirnova. They're husband and wife, maybe, because that's like the female version of Smirnov. I'm just guessing. But I get in a kind of it's truthful because they wrote a book together. Vlachkilev Smirnov and Marina Smirnova. They're somehow related. They just have she has the feminized version of the name because she's trying to show that she's got the pants in the family, like my wife. Okay, each containing useful nuggets of archival information and advancing interesting theories. Some of these recent works are undisguised polemics infused with monarchist and religious sentiment. So they're monarchists, people that look up to the monarchy as the way of doing things. They're called monarchists. They believe in the totalitarian system of government run by a beneficent, benevolent. That's the word I was looking for. Benevolent, a benevolent dictator, which I've lived under benevolent dictators, and the government's actually worked a lot. The parliament system that worked under benevolent dictators actually brought more democratic values to the fore than did any so-called democracy in the present systems we live under, which are totalitarian systems based on corporatocracies and kleptocracies, which masquerade as democracies, which aren't really democracies because they're just puppet regimes run by whoever they've selected beforehand to claim to be one side of the corporatocracy called the Democrat and Republican Party, and the Labor and the whatever the Whig Party or whatever what's in other countries that call themselves democracies, the Labor Party and the Fascist Party, where they're both fascist parties anyway. They both supported illegal and immoral wars on the innocent people in countries that had nothing to do with September 11th, which was an inside job. Okay. Some of these recent works are undisguised polemics infused with monarchic and religious sentiment. Even worse, we find a number of writers succumbing to nationalism, anti-Semitism, and a determination to expunge pages from Rasputin's life as inventions of Masonic, Jewish, and Bolshevik conspirators. Maybe they were right. People always use this word since the CIA invented this word conspiracy theory to kind of point out the obvious fact that there was a conspiracy to kill someone and they don't want you to know that. So they want you to say anyone who talks about a conspiracy is a nut, bat, tinfoil, batshit crazy, believes in single bullets bouncing off of freaking ricochet targets and secret voodoo and all that shit because they want you to think you're batshit crazy because that's what the CIA does. It's called fucking COINTELPRO. It's called brainwashing the sheeple to fucking follow along with this stupid conspiracy theory offered by the government, like 9/11 was done by 19 hijackers and run by some guy in a cave in dialysis in Afghanistan, Tora Bora, wherever else he was hiding out, and they buried him in the ocean, but they crashed their helicopter on the way to the ocean, and the pilots killed the passengers who were supposed to have killed him in a gunfight. Oh, yeah. we saw the hanging of the democratically elected leader, regardless of how fascist he was or not fascist he was. He was just as much democratically elected as the puppet head we have now, who's senile in this country. What we saw Saddam Hussein get brutally executed by hanging, thanks to the guards whose cell phone caught it and leaked it out to the media, just to show how batshit crazy these lies about September 11th were. Oh yeah, Saddam was saying yellow cake uranium, and all those guys who stole 2 elections are supposedly now 400 days after the false flag operation happened, thoroughly investigated and published a thick book of lies called The Conspiracy Theory of 9/11, offered by the government, otherwise known as the Cover-Up Commission. Anyway, that's a whole long story. Even these books are useful to a specialist, but more casual readers need to be cautious. 2 eyewitness accounts of Rasputin's murder are extremely important. Vladimir Porishkevich, the man who fired the shot that actually took Rasputin's life, published The Murder of Rasputin. And 2 years after he killed him, he fucking published a book about how he killed him. Wow. Prince Felix Yusupov, the architect of the conspiracy, so when the prince helped and had some good hitmen be with him to kill him. They tried to poison him first, and they finally shot him because he didn't die in the poison. And then he fought back, and they had to shoot him a number of times to get him to completely die because he wouldn't die with gunshots to his chest. So the prince, the architect of the computer, gave his account of the events so he wrote a book in 1927, since he was part of the conspiracy theory, which is a conspiracy happens all the time. He was a conspiracy to kill this person. It's not, if conspiracies happen or don't happen, they happen all the time. It's just 2 or more people working towards an event that is illegal or immoral or unjustified, whether it's legal, because there's a lot of legal killings that are conspiracies because they shouldn't have happened because they're immoral and unethical, and we shouldn't kill people. So anytime the CIA takes out a so-called terrorist, that's a conspiracy to kill someone. That's murder. But we don't call it that because we're the good guys fighting the bad guys, which is always the lie that empires use to dull their masses into conformity and acceptance of the hyperbolic bullshitdom called reality that they want you to stomach as truth, which is not truth because it's reality. It's just the fictional documentation of what you should believe and shouldn't believe based on the past that was a lie. Okay, a shorter work. Okay, so another shorter work was by another conspirator, Dr. Stanislav. He doesn't have such a hard name. Stanislaus. He's like Santa Claus's son. Stanislaus Lazavert. Can you imagine if a guy's name was Lazavert and he was a pervert? The pervert Lazavert. I'm sorry if this guy wasn't a pervert. He's a doctor. But maybe he was a pharmacologist given poisons. That's why they tried to poison him. Maybe this was the doctor that used the special poisons they're not supposed to use. But he didn't die because he was a mystical healer, and he just said, I'm having chest pains and headache, and vomited and didn't die, so they had to shoot him because all the poisons he gave him and he drank, he didn't somehow die because he was some magical being. Anyway, Oleg Shishkin was the first to suggest that the British Secret Intelligence Service was behind Rasputin's murder. Wow. British Secret Services. Oh, pin the tail on the donkey. That's like Saddam Hussein was selling yellow cake uranium to hide his weapons of mass destructions that helped bring about. How did that bring it? It had nothing to do with September 11th, but it did, but it didn't. But then we just led a whole war and destroyed a whole country, and we're still there under all the lies that we fabricated that all came to the surface were a lie, just like all the other wars we've ever done in history. All wars are created by lies because you don't go about killing people and mass starving people and raping their women and children to take over their lands and their resources just for the fun of it. You do it because you lied about it, because it was a fucking hoax. Okay? That's what wars are. They're fucking hoax. They're lies brought to death and destruction on people based on those lies. Okay. His book began a revisionist wave that argues that Yusupov was simply the front man in a plot that was concocted and carried out by the British agents. That's so cool. Richard Collins follows this view in Rasputin, the role of Britain's Secret Service in his torture and murder, which was published in 2010. Dr. Cullen, a former Scotland Yard detective, Scotland Yard, Agatha Christie's interviewed him to make her last book. I love the name Scotland Yard. Points out, just if I was going to work for any secret government, I'd work for Scotland Yard or the City of London. That would be kind of fun. Or the Vatican. Nah, I worked at the Vatican in previous lifetimes. I'm not doing that again. That was just disappointing, to say the least, because I never got credit for my work. They just call it the King James Bible, not telling you that I was the fucking translator of it. Anyway, I couldn't tell you that I was the writer of the plays because I would have got killed. But I had to like weave a narrative behind the plays that later congressmen in the U.S. can decipher almost completely in the early turn of the century, 1900s, when Rasputin was killed. Wow, what beautiful timing. Maybe they did it to hide the fact that the British Secret Service was trying to keep you from knowing that the guy who supposedly wrote all these, supposedly, I have to say it right because people get mad at me on my videos because I say supposedly, which isn't a real word, but it is a real word because words are just definitions put into sounding, articulate speech patterns that can be rendered in letters and hyphens and shit like that. So Shakespeare hyphen was the original folio, not written by the man who was listed in there as an actor, William Shakespeare, who was illiterate. We had to read him the lines, but anyway, that's a whole long story. I already made other videos about that. Okay, Richard Collins follows the view in Rasputin's the role of, okay. Dr. Cullen, a former Scotland Yard detective, points out discrepancies in the Yusupov and Prishkebnov accounts. Cullen seems to expect perfect agreement in the accounts of the main participants, and that reveals the weakness of the revisionist approach. You never get a perfect account of history by anyone. Your memory doesn't serve you last year or the year before, because if I were trying to tell my story in 2010 or 2050, it's going to be a lot different because I remember things differently. And I don't have the whole story until I revisit it by talking to other people too. So accounts are always going to deviate from what you think is reality, which there isn't any reality. It's just a matrix field that is kind of concocted by our thoughts, feelings, and emotions, compiled with our projections, expectations, judgments, conclusions, rejections, separations, linearities, concentricities, form structures, and significances, and all the assigns and assignations of other people's fantasies and insanities. That's what we call reality. That's what it is. It looks real, it feels real, but it ain't. Collins seems to expect perfect agreement in the accounts of the main participants, and that reveals the weakness of the revisionist approach, because you can't. One would think that a policeman, of all people, would recognize that honest eyewitnesses are fallible and disagreements over details does not necessarily indicate deceit. Nevertheless, Cullen is to be admired for his presentation of some very interesting ideas about Rasputin's murder. How long should I read? Should I continue reading? How long have I read? I know you guys love me interjecting my hearsay and their say, because Danielle's listening in maybe, and there was one other person they're listening in, but I don't know who they are. I don't know how to say hi because it's, oh, you're Buna, you're speaking at Portfol Corabia. Maybe you're speaking Spanish. I don't speak Spanish, but Cool. I'll just say hi. Hola, Kimo sabe. Kimo sabe. Hola. Sorry. I don't speak Spanish. I did speak Spanish in the 1600s when I wrote the plays, because I took a couple Spanish, very famous Spanish plays that weren't yet published in English, or Spanish novellas, and used a little reworking of the plots to help me in some of my creation of my plots, which you thought were brilliant because you thought I wrote them, but actually they were rewrites of all these other languages. But that's why I couldn't put my name on it, because that would be admitting to the world that I was a plagiarizer, and I was just more of a stand-down comic, not yet fully come out of the closet as a stand-down comic, because I would have been killed by the government because I was working for the Queen of England and later the King of England. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. We're on page, that's enough reading. Half hour before we go to bed. I can go to bed after that. If you read a little before you go to bed, you sleep a lot better. So remind me, I'm on exactly page XII, which is 12, according to the Romans. I'm on page 12 of the preface, and I'll come start up there again when I finish. I'll just make a note of that on my thing here. Go to page X11 of the preface to start next video. So if I get any interest in this, and some comments, and some likes or dislikes, and some comments on my commentary, which people always go like, would you just shut up and fucking read? I'm like, no, because that's not where I'm making that fucking video. It's because you never listen to my actual videos, because you guys are stupid. You think you want to read about something else, and that's why I'm going to put it in. I'm doing like guerrilla theater for you, man, because you guys are too stupid to read my books and read my song lyrics. Okay, love you all. Peace out. I'm going to bed.